If you're still leaving tracks half finished after spending hours in the studio, I get it, that was me too. But once I added this simple system, everything changed and it helped me to finish 3 times more music without burning out. I actually mentioned this Trello system in a recent video and the response kind of blew me away. The comments were full of people asking, what's this to-do list app? Or what's that software that you're using to organize your workflow? It became the #1 thing that people are asking about. So I decided to just give it to you, the exact system that I use, completely free, so you can start finishing your tracks today. Stick with me in this video and I'll talk you through it step by step. But first I want to give you a little bit of context. I'm a music producer and I make these YouTube videos, but my day job I work on hospital wards as a physiotherapist. And one thing I learned really early on after working in these busy ward environments was that if you don't prioritize your workload properly, the day gets so hectic so quickly. Things get missed, you don't get everything done, and you feel burnt out. To manage this in a hospital, they've built loads of systems to help the day flow better. So what I did is I took those systems and I built a Trello board to help manage my own music workflow. And that for me was the game changer. So the link to this free Trello template is in the description. I'm going to start by showing you how to get access to it, and then I'm going to walk through each section with you so you know exactly how to use it. Right, I'm going to go to my desk for this one. Okay, so once you've followed the link in the description, it'll take you to a landing page that I made, and then from there you'll be able to get access to this Trello. And Trello is basically a project management system. So the first thing to do after this is go to Trello.com and create a free account. From there you can log in, and then when you've clicked the link through to this board, all you want to do next is go up to these 3 dots in the top right hand corner, and then scroll down to copy board, click on that, and then you can call it whatever you want. So if I wrote music, workflow, and then click create, and then that board is now going to be saved onto your account. So if we go on back onto this home page, you can see this is the one I've just made here. So that's what yours will look like. So if we click back into the board that I've created, it's called the Music Producer Workflow Board, and you can see that there's multiple different titles at the top, and this is what we're going to go through today. So in a second I'm going to start off with a to-do list, which is one of the most important ones that I use every single day. The 3-loop rule, always learning, I have too many ideas, when gets hard, because things are hard in the music industry. And then these last 2 up here are release checklist and my goals. I'm going to save those for a different video because they're more geared around how to get the best out of every release that you do, whether it's self-release or on a record label. And today we're going to keep it all about helping you finish tracks and be more productive in the studio. You can also see at the top of each tab I've put a little about section. So I've written in there a couple of details about each section. So if you forget, you know, what we're talking about today, you can always click back into those when you access, and it's just a little reminder. So let's get stuck into the first one, which is the to-do list. And like I said, this is the most important one that I use every single day. And the reason it's so helpful to keep you progressing in the studio and finishing more music is because it takes away all the mess of thinking about all the different things we have to do as a music producer, and it helps you focus on one thing at a time. So if we click on this to-do tab here, you'll see that it's broken up into things to do now, things that are coming up next, and things to do later. And this is the same approach that I use within the busy hospital wards that I work on, to split off what I need to do right now, what's most important, and what things I can, you know, think about later. And the way to approach this is, like I've written here, is to check this list before every studio session and then update it after. So when you've had a session in the studio and maybe you're halfway through a song, you know there's things you're going to want to do next time. So I put those on this list and I make it really specific. You can see the top 2 things here: add transitions to my new song, sort the reverb and delay in the mix because I feel like it's too muddy. They're really specific things that as soon as I jump in the studio next time, I don't need to think, oh, where am I up to, what am I doing? I've already written it down, I can just get stuck in straight away. And then if you're always doing that, then you find you're able to move along with your song a lot quicker. But there's also loads of other things as producers that we're doing, which when we're trying to just make a song and focus, they can kind of take up too much space in our brains. So I've written those down here as well. So we might want to send a song to a record label, make some release promo for an upcoming song, start a new loop, create a music video concept or some more promo ideas, sign up to a pro. So this is actually on my to-do list, sign up to a performance rights organization and find a new collab. But when you see a list all like this, it feels quite overwhelming. There's a lot to do there, and I think this is what music producers feel all the time. I definitely do. So the key is to split this up into categories so you know exactly what to do today and what doesn't need thinking about today. Because for example, if we're trying to finish a song and I start doing this one here, trying to sign up to a performance rights organization, then it's just going to waste time. If that's not something I need to do right now, then it's just going to get in the way of the workflow. So let's say my focus is I want to progress with this song. So that means the top 2 things here are the main ones to do. I don't need to send a song to a record label. I don't need to start making promo I definitely don't need to start a new loop. Create a music video concept. So that's even more broad. So actually I don't even need to do that next. I'm going to save that to later. That's not something I need to sort of think about right now. Sign up to the Pro. Again, if I was looking at my own to-do list, it's not an urgent thing for me to do. So I'm going to drop that down to later. Find a new collab as well. Let's pull that down. So all of a sudden, this seems a lot more manageable and we've got a lot more focus. So for now I've got half an hour in the studio, and I'm going to add some transitions to this song. I'm going to sort the reverb and delay, and that's it. And that's going to move the progress of my song so much quicker than if I felt like I had all these other things to do and I was just getting sort of muddled in which task to do. And the beauty of this is, as soon as you've done those things, you can tick them, you can delete them, and then you just move on to the next thing. So maybe you finished that song and you want to send it to a label. That's the next thing you do. And I've updated this after the session, so next time I come to the studio, I'm like, oh, I need to send that song to a label. Good. Get that done, tick it off, and then move on to the next thing. And the beauty is, if something suddenly becomes more of a priority, so say if you have a song that does really well and you want to make sure that you're getting all the getting your finances in check, then I could bump this up right to the top. That I need to sign up to that so that I make sure I'm getting my royalties. It's that kind of thing. You can adjust these priorities as you go on, and that's how you use this. And it just means I'm not wasting time doing things that don't need to be done right now, because let's face it, there's so much stuff for us to do as music producers. But even when you take those out of your head and into a list, and if they're just in one big list, then even that is quite overwhelming. So we're trying to break it up and put it into much more manageable steps. Now let's move on to the 3-loop rule. So some of you might have seen this video which explains it in a little bit more detail, but essentially this is a way to make sure you're not pursuing a song that just isn't clicking. It's not maybe hitting in the way that you'd like, and sometimes we all get stuck in weeks on end trying to finish a song, trying to make something that I just don't feel like is that great, and it feels like a massive waste of time, because eventually you finish doing that, you start a new song, and that's way better. And then we've all been there when a song, they say, pretty much writes itself. It felt a lot easier. So basically the 3-loop rule is to get to that point quicker. And what I do is I've just got these 4 tabs at the bottom here. So when I talk about a loop, for me it's about 8 to 16 bars, about 5 to 6 layers depending on genre. I keep it really simple, and I usually time myself 30 minutes to an hour, so I'm not spending too long making these. But this is the key sentence here, that usually one of these loops is going to be better than the other 2, and that's your winner. That's the loop to make into a full song. So what I'll do is I'll make my first loop, and then I might not make the next one straight away. It might be a few days later, it might be a week later, but whenever I get around to it, I'll make the new one, and then again. And then at that point I've got 3 loops, and I think, okay, which one of these stands out? Which one's the best? And then I just choose the loop that I think is the best, and I try and make that one into a song. And what it does is, say if loop 2 was the best one, it'll stop me wasting time trying to make loop 1 and 3 into a full track, when all I need to do is find the gem, find the winner, and then make that one into a full song. And once I've done this, then it's more of a thing of finishing that track. So I'll delete all these, and once that track's done, maybe it's even released, I'll come back to this and just start the cycle again, go back to loop 1. And this really helps me in the studio. It speeds things up, and I just don't get caught up too much wasting time on creative ideas I don't think are that good. So yeah, that's something I find super helpful, and it's just always going on in the background. Okay, quick pause. If you're enjoying this video and you want to hear more real talk on finishing tracks and being more productive in the studio, then come join my channel. Hit that subscribe button. I got loads more content like this coming soon. Okay, so the next tab is always learning, and this is really helpful because one other thing that's really going to help your production get more efficient, faster, and sounding better is if we're constantly progressing our skills. So this one is basically like a little learning hub. It's somewhere that you can highlight your learning needs, and then you can pour resources into here. So if I felt like I needed a bit more help with mixing and mastering, I just create these extra cards, so you create it on anything. So maybe if you wanted to help with arrangement, and then when you're in there, you can just add all the resources that help you. Like this, you might have watched this mixing video by EDM Tips, save it to this area, and then you can come back to it at any time. And you can also use these tabs to consolidate your work, so you can write stuff in these sections. So say if you've watched this video and it gave 3 sort of main points that are really helpful, something about EQ, something about a master chain. You can basically make this work for you in whatever way you learn best. So basically, always having a learning, developing mindset will really help you progress in the studio. Okay, this next tab, I have too many ideas. This is something I struggle with quite a lot. I'm always coming up with new ideas, whether it's for my music or whether it's for how I promote it, whether it's like a promo idea or a music video or merch ideas, anything really. Those things are always popping into my brain, and if I let them seep in too much to my studio time, then it's like I'm a bit scatterbrained. So what helps me is putting those ideas and sort of filing them in this area, because it means that if I have an idea, I can just write it down, get it out of my head. Maybe I'm thinking of, for example, a music video, filming locations, budget, timeline, things like that. So this tab is more about letting yourself have ideas, jotting them down somewhere, and then sort of keeping them there and coming back to them later. And maybe you've written something down you're really passionate about, but it's just not quite the right time. You could even add it onto the later list. You could just, you know, give yourself a little prompt to think about some merch, and then you can come back to it when you got the time. Okay, and I really like this one. This is when gets hard. So in the music industry, it is really challenging to sort of build a career out of this. We're all on the same journey, and sometimes you're gonna feel unmotivated, uninspired, and sometimes you just need a little pick-me-up. So this is a section where you basically fill it with whatever motivates you and inspires you. So I've come up with a couple here. If we click on helpful YouTube videos, this is obviously my channel. I've just popped on there. There's a video I did there on how to stay motivated. So you can just go off and find different videos, find different bits of inspiration, and then save them on here so you can come back to them whenever you need it most. I always find noting down my achievements is quite useful as well. So sometimes we feel like we're not progressing at all, especially when you're like posting songs, maybe streams aren't that high, or you're trying to grow on social media and follow account, it's slow growth. It can make you really think, you know, this is really difficult and it's not quite working. But if you've listed all your achievements, then you can kind of counter that very quickly. Just have a little look at what you've achieved recently. So maybe you've signed to a decent record label, or you collaborated with another artist, or you got more streams on your last release than usual. If you've written them there, then if you're having those moments where you don't feel like you're making progress, you can just quickly come back to this and be like, oh, actually I am making progress. It just sometimes doesn't feel like it. And quotes are always really helpful. You know, we see them online. You might be scrolling social media or watching a YouTube video, and, you know, or reading a book, and you hear a quote. It doesn't have to be about music. It could just be something inspirational. So I've just popped a few in here to get people going. There's something I say all the time: work smarter, not harder. And there's that famous quote by Albert Einstein: insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So it's basically just anything that inspires you. Write it down in here, and then you can keep coming back to these. And what's really cool about these is that not every problem is solved by the same solution. You might one day be feeling like you're not making progress. Watching a helpful YouTube video might not solve that, but looking at your own achievements might. There might be a day where you just feel like you're uninspired. So looking at your achievements might not help that, but looking at some inspirational or motivational videos might. So it's good having a range of different types of inspiration in here, and then you can just tap into it whenever you want. So if I summed up how I used this best, is basically I use this to-do list as my core element, and then I keep coming back to these other elements as and when I need them. So if I'm trying to get some loops done, then I can just keep track here on where I'm up to. If I'm trying to mix my song and that's in my to-do list, but I'm struggling with it, I'm going to come back into my mixing tab. If I feel like my mind is drifting into other ideas, then I'll jot them down in this section and then come back to what I need to just do today. And if I'm feeling a bit uninspired or self-doubt is kicking in, I'm going to come back into this tab, try and resolve that, and then come back into what I was looking to do in the studio. So all these are aimed at basically removing distractions and optimizing your time in the studio. All right, that's it. That's a full breakdown. And this Trello board has really helped change the way I work in the studio, and I hope it helps you too. Remember, progress over perfection, because one finished track is so much better than 10 unfinished loops. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for everyone that's joined my channel. Let me know in the comments if you like this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.